In this week's video we will look into another intrigue in casual conversations, leaving you hanging and ignoring what you said. Let's get into it now. At the beginning, I want to say that leaving someone hanging or ignoring them can sometimes be a form of self-protection. If a person is intrusive or reactive, you might have no choice but to disengage. And then they may turn it around, saying you ignored them, trying to paint you as the abuser. Narcissists do this all the time. But here's the other side: sometimes people are intrusive and reactive not because they're narcissists, but because they've been abused, traumatized, or they are still stuck in a narcissistic abuse cycle. They don't mean harm, but they can't see their own reactivity. What they do see is the moment when another person ignores them. And because they can't see their own part in it, they feel abused. That, to me, is the most tragic case. Because the person who is reactive doesn't realize that their behavior itself was intrusive, and the other person was simply protecting themselves. I know this was true for me when I was in a reactive state. That's why I can say with certainty that you can only really distinguish between a narcissistic trick and someone simply protecting themselves when you've healed enough to not be reactive yourself. Only when you can hold your ground and observe without reacting can you see clearly what is happening. If not, you risk mislabeling protection as manipulation, and you might end up being the unintentional abuser. When you ignore someone, even yourself, you can ask, was I trying to manipulate, or was I protecting myself? Often it looks manipulative because ignoring feels like control. But in reality, when someone is chaotic, intrusive, and all over the place, you sometimes need to withdraw just to stay grounded. That isn't manipulation, it's survival. That's why it is essential to know your own why and to stay rooted in it. Otherwise, you will quickly get dragged into someone else's perception of you as the abuser, either through their emotional reaction or through smearing. This is why, after narcissistic abuse, isolation is so important. Because until you heal, you unknowingly spread the disease. I know this from myself. Back then, I would act in ways I didn't even intend. And sometimes, yes, I could admit it was me, but other times it wasn't. Either way, people reacted, and I couldn't see my own part clearly. That's why no contact or little contact is crucial, even with people who may not be intentionally abusive. If they are tied to the narcissistic world, they will bring its pollution, its reactivity. And being around that will inevitably pull you back in. From my experience, narcissists often use the leave you hanging trick very early on, even in the first conversation. It's one of their favorite ways to establish control. There are two main types: the ones who leave you hanging right away, and the ones who first act very nice, gathering information about you, and only then begin creating the power structure. The first type is straightforward. You respond to something they say, tying your answer naturally to their words, because you don't want to leave them hanging. But then, they leave you hanging. And that act alone is meant to humiliate, belittle, and train you. The message is clear: you are not allowed to have your own voice. Your role is to support them, to amplify them, but never to be independent. For me, that feels deeply humiliating. It makes me shrink, as if I become a silly, helpless little girl at the mercy of a strict authority figure. I start appeasing, please don't punish me, I'll be good. I feel toxic shame flooding my body. My mind gets foggy. Sometimes I start talking compulsively, just to fill the silence and cover the shame. And that's exactly the point. The trick is designed to humiliate, diminish, and cement the power imbalance. If there is an audience present, it's even worse. The cruelty of the narcissist is invisible, but your humiliation is visible. Others judge you for being awkward, for not defending yourself, for not pushing back. But the truth is, the moment you try to defend yourself in such a situation, you're already caught. That's why I often prefer to let them leave me hanging and, from that moment, never want them in my life again. Because that trick does more than just sting, it eats away at your status. And in the narcissistic world, status is everything. If your status is diminished, others around you sense it instantly. It becomes a signal that they can attack you, dump on you, scapegoat you, without consequence. It's a pack of wolves mentality, and the swarm of perception shifts immediately. If you are empathic, you will feel that energetic change in the room instantly. And you'll also feel how strong the pull is to join the swarm, to become one of the collective abusers. Why? Because it feels safe. It feels like unity. It feels like belonging. It's not me. That's why narcissists always provide scapegoats. They protect their swarm from feeling their own shadow by offering someone else to dump it onto. This scapegoating ritual is everywhere: daily conversations, social media, politics, war. Not because humans are naturally violent, but because people trapped in cages of false definitions become aggressive and need a release valve. Without scapegoats, that aggression would turn against the cages themselves, and the narcissistic system would collapse. That's why scapegoats are essential to the system's survival. This is why every war looks the same. People think they've defeated evil, but in reality, the system only renewed itself. It hides within people, through collective denial. Victim, abuser, and scapegoat can all exist in the same person at once. It's multi-layered. Coming back to being left hanging, it's just another way of initiating that entire chain reaction. And just like with any narcissistic trick, you cannot win. Even when you think you won, you lost. Because maybe they let you win just to keep you hooked. Or maybe you walked away with your dignity intact, but you're so drained that you're left wide open for the next attack. Either way, you wasted your life force in a rigged game. My big realization, looking back at all my old notes, was this: I wasted years trying to re-enter the narcissistic world. I read the books, took the courses, studied all the tricks, wrote endless notes, just to realize that it's impossible. And not only is it impossible, it's not worth it. The only thing that was worth my energy was creating my own human bubble, my own space where I felt safe, alive, and free. When you see the tricks clearly, it's shocking. Time freezes. You feel the swarm forming, the scapegoat energy rising. And you realize, I don't want to be part of this world anymore. Slowly, you fall out of it. And the more you fall out, the more you see how cruel, violent, and rotten it really is, just covered in perfume and beautiful facade to mask the stench. Those of us who went through deep narcissistic abuse are sensitive to these tricks. We can see them, and we are no longer blinded. That's why we are the ones who can create nodes of a different reality, once we are ready. But the key is not to do it to save the world. The key is to do it for yourself. The change in the world will be a side effect if enough people do the same. And one more thing, don't shield others from their own karma. This is so important. I'm sure you know what I mean. Maybe you've excused someone's behavior by saying, they didn't know, or they're sweet, they just didn't mean it. I used to do that too. But by protecting them from their own consequences, you keep the scapegoating system alive. Let them receive what they created. And let yourself receive what you created. At first, after abuse, we often reject our own shadow completely, because with a narcissist even the tiniest flaw was exaggerated into monstrous proportions. We wrap ourselves in an angelic self-image just to survive. That's okay. But when the time is right, we must also face our shadow and allow karma to flow naturally. That's when real receptivity opens. That's when we can finally receive the good too. Thank you for listening. Take care of yourself.